On today's episode of the Warns Way podcast, I'm joined by a fellow podcaster who has his own podcast called the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast. And I don't want to spoil it, but going into next week will actually be his 10-year anniversary for the podcast. He also has over 600 episodes and his own supplement line called Unify. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, called Unify. And he's just an all-round great human being and an elite athlete. Welcome to the Warns Way podcast, DK. Or Mr. Daniel Kennedy, I should probably say, so people don't get confused with Donkey Kong.
Yeah, we look similar. Brother, thanks for having me on. Appreciate you having me here, man. You've done an awesome job so far. Very grateful to be here with you, man.
No, thank you, DK. I have known you now for probably 7 or 8 years. Did we first meet 2018 or 2019?
I reckon it was 2018 we met. Yeah.
And we've had a lot of gym sessions. I think our first gym session was at MSAC with Mitch.
Yeah, it would have been. Me, you, Mitch Orville.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in the day.
Because
I pump a few sessions at MSAC. And then
yeah. I was trying to think when our first gym session was, and I think it was then because I remember stalking you on Instagram before we trained. I'm like, shit.
See if it's going to be worth your time.
No, I was like, shit, this guy's a big boy. I'm going to, and because I was only just starting out, I'd probably been in the gym for maybe like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But like
your physique's progressed a lot since then.
I've had lots of Maccas since then. But before then, just my terms of confidence and meeting people, I was a bit like, I don't know if I would always be really anxious about it. But now it's fine.
That is definitely one thing. I think I said this to you in our episode because I had you on for episode 600.
Yes, which was an honour, by the way. I did not deserve to be your 600th episode.
Oh, mate, of course you did. But I remember I said to you on that episode that that's one thing that I feel like has progressed so much since we first met is just your confidence and self-belief and ability to, I mean, the fact that you're doing this is crazy compared to, when I first met you.
Yeah, well, this was something that, you probably, like the last thing I'd ever be doing, talking to new people and opening up on camera and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I've mentioned it before on the podcast, for me, it was SAS, State Memorial, and then the last 4 years just with everything to do with Dad and the legacy and just being on camera, I've actually found I've really enjoyed it. So, no, thank you for coming on.
That's good, man. Thanks for having me here.
First thing I'd love to talk to you about is obviously you've been in the industry for fitness and lifestyle podcasting and all that sort of stuff for probably over 10 years now. Do you remember?
I didn't even think about that when you said that before, that it's 10 years.
Yeah, April 17th, I think, was when you released the first episode, April 17, 2016. Yes.
That's wild, huh?
Yeah. Did you not know that?
I didn't even register until you said it before, but that's pretty crazy. 10 years is nuts.
Yeah, no, because when I was going on your Spotify and just doing all the research, I saw me for 600 and I've tried to do the math if it was one a week, but then I've known sometimes you do a few a week and then have it like a space, but then I'm like, hang on. And then I saw you'd shared April 17th, first episode, and you were doing like a wrap-up post. I'm like, shit, I'm going to be able to say in this podcast, 10-year anniversary.
That's crazy. It's nuts, actually, that it's gone. It feels like it's gone quick, kind of. Yeah. But, yeah, it's been a long time. When I first started, like, there was very minimal podcasts going around. Like, most people that I had on didn't even know what it was. Yeah. Like, at the beginning.
Especially in Melbourne and Victoria, and what your niche is about fitness and lifestyle, like you were probably the first person to start doing it.
Yeah, well, I remember I started it because I'd been YouTubing like quite a bit, and I'd been really consistent with YouTube vlogs because at that stage I was still competing and I was spending a bit of time in the US, so I'd do a lot of these vlogs.
Competing for bodybuilding?
Yeah, and I was doing a lot of vlogs, and it just like I was putting out a vlog every single day. I think at one point I did about 3 months every day for 3 months.
Wow.
And the return was just not there. Like I just wasn't getting many views at all. And so I'd started listening to a couple of podcasts myself. I just thought, well, why not just do this? And at the time, the amount of production that went into the podcast was nowhere near what it is now. So that was probably what I liked about it, is that I could just have my laptop, a USB mic with me and kind of record a podcast anywhere. And I've recorded episodes in some of the funniest spots. Like,
really? Does one stand out to you that is like the funniest?
For sure.
Or just the most like, I can't believe where I am, what I'm doing, but I'm talking into a microphone?
Well, there's two that are pretty weird, but they're pretty funny. The first one is just, I actually recorded a number of episodes like this under my doona, just on my bed under my doona, because it made the sound quality really good before we were like using studios and stuff. Yeah. And then the other one was literally like in my wardrobe.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've recorded heaps of them in cars. Like,
what were you doing for lighting?
Zero. Like
Oh,
I
so
wasn't
this
even
is,
I wasn't even
this is
filming it.
audio only at this
Yeah,
point. Ah,
audio only.
of
So
course.
it was just whatever made the sound
Yeah.
to sound good. So there were some pretty wild spots, but it's progressed so much since then.
Yeah.
Like you were saying before, I think when you do this often, obviously your skill sets get better, but your comfortability in front of the cameras and the microphone just gets better as well. And like when I first started as well, it probably took, to be honest, like almost 100, maybe even more episodes for me to really like find my groove with
The
it.
rhythm.
I felt like I was trying to make it perfect at the beginning, and so solo episodes I would almost have like the whole thing written out in my notes, and I'd be trying to make it sound like I was coming up with it on the spot. And then with guests, it was very much like 21 questions. Like it didn't flow at all. And then the funny thing is, I'd recorded one in Vegas, and I was in Vegas at the time, and I hadn't put out an episode that week, and I was really being consistent with an episode every week. So I was like, shit, I better do one. So I went back up to the room. I'd already had a few cocktails, and I started the episode, and the doorbell goes. And so I forgot I'd ordered another cocktail that came midway through the episode.
Yeah.
So she brings in the cocktail, and I left that in the episode, right? And I ended up just uploading it. And one of my best mates sent me a message, and he was like, that was like the first episode where it was actually just like
Real.
listening to you and talking to you. Not because I was pissed, but because it was just relaxed and I wasn't overthinking things. And so after that, I just carried on with that. And like, now I'll sit down with any guest, no matter who it is, and very rarely bring in anything. Like I'll just really kind of approach it the same as what I would if we were just having a conversation. And I think that's where you get the best out of the conversation, and it's a bit more relaxed and a bit more natural.
It's so impressive because I know when we filmed your 600th episode, you had like no notes. It was a very conversation feel, but you had your research, and like I've learned a lot from you as well by trying to do that, because I've got my phone, and I started off with, when I had this podcast, with my laptop and the notes, and then I sort of have moved now to my phone, but I try and do all my research either the night before or in the morning of, so it's really fresh. And I've got this as like a backup.
Yep.
So I try not to look at it. But a few things you just mentioned there, which I can definitely relate to. You mentioned the word perfect, and that to me was something that me and Kaya a little bit struggled with, because I was probably ready to start this podcast early to middle of April last year, and because I was trying to make it perfect in terms of having Dad's book there, or my drink bottle, or the lighting, or did I look right, or my hair. I was just trying to make it all like perfect. And then a month went by, 2 months went by, 3 months went by, and I still hadn't posted my first episode. So then me and Kyle were like, you know what? And I also got advice from a massive shout out to Tully from my gym. He said, don't let perfect get in the way of good. And as soon as he said that to me, I'm like, that is so true, because I may as well just start and just grow and grow and get better and better. And it's so true, because it's not just about podcasting. It can be about anything. Someone trying to start their own business or supplements like you, whatever it is. Don't let perfect get in the way of good, because perfect doesn't really exist. People will still make mistakes, which I'm sure you've learnt from either your podcast or your supplements. Like, you can't let perfect get in the way of good.
Mate, 100%. I have this conversation a lot with my clients these days around, like, I'll ask you this question: do you think it'll ever be perfect, or will you always be able to find something that could improve?
Yeah.
Right. So if we know right from the start that it's never going to be perfect, our intention is to achieve something that we don't even think is possible, right? And I think like that feeling of not being ready will always be there. I said to a client literally yesterday, like the feeling that they've got at the moment of being hesitant to jump in or not ready to start, that feeling will be exactly the same in 6 months' time or in 12 months' time. So either way, you don't get to skip that bit.
Yeah.
And I think, probably for yourself as well, like when you first started the pod, it wouldn't have mattered when you started. Like your ability to keep progressing is just purely based off just getting in there and learning as you go. And yeah, man, I think like, as you said, it's just never going to be perfect.
And I think that's where I identify the most growth in me personally, and you might be the same, but it's like being able to cringe at yourself. Like I watch my episodes from 5 weeks ago or 10 weeks ago, especially like the first 10 episodes I did, I'm like, ugh, just the way I'm talking, how I sound, how I'm leading my conversations, my rhythm and the flow. I'd almost be like, oh, like I'm so nitpicky. But like, even I'll film this now with you. I'm sure in a few months I'll be like, oh, I'm just constantly noticing growth. And I think that's why I've really enjoyed this podcast, because I'm definitely getting out of my comfort zone and I'm growing and I'm talking to new people about different topics and I'm learning a lot. And are you a bit the same with your podcast? Like every single episode you're growing and improving. Like you're never, I don't want to say you're never satisfied, but like what you said, you're never going to be able to be perfect. There's always room for growth.
1000%, man. And like the way I view it is, so I said to someone the other day, like if I'm glad that my podcast didn't gain traction until it did, because the episodes at the start were shit. Like they were not good.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad people didn't find it for a while. But the reality is like, yeah, you're always going to have these areas that you can improve on. But the thing to keep in mind, because you can't be frustrated or disappointed or embarrassed or ashamed of that as well, because at that time, that was your best. And obviously now we have more experience or more learnings compared to when we did just then. And so we can't really judge that version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because that was our best at that period of time. And I think even for our own growth or our own journey, it's actually cool to look back on that. Like you'll get to episode 100 and look back at the first 10 episodes and feel so good about like where you are at episode 100 and the amount of growth you've had. And reality is that's the same with pretty much everything in life anyway.
Yeah. And you speak so intelligently and so articulately, because I know you've mentioned you're doing a lot of mindfulness coaching, and not necessarily coaching just about fitness and health, but a lot about actually your mind. How has that transition from, because I'd love to talk about fitness and because we both love the gym, but how have you found the transition from talking about, diets and fitness in the gym and outside the gym to actually well-being and mindfulness?
Yeah, well, my business and my content has always just been a bit of a reflection of like myself and like where I'm at in life. And that was how I started in the health and fitness industry. Like it was really just documenting my journey of understanding training, nutrition and everything like that. And around 2019, around then, 2020, I really started to lean into personal growth and mindset. I was kind of just pushing, and up until that point in my life, like everything I'd achieved or where I'd gotten to was from just doing more and working harder. And so I carried that approach with absolutely everything, and I just neglected the mindset or the mindfulness side of it. And just, like many people, started experiencing a bit of anxiety and just didn't feel good mentally. Yep. And so I started to go a little bit more inward and, started trying things like meditation and working with some mentors and coaches and really just like opened up my mind to not only what we're capable of, but also like how great we can experience life when we start to understand things like our limiting beliefs or our patterns that we're in, starting to get clear on the things that we want to experience in our life as well. And I always say like personal growth is like a process of elimination. I think it's actually just letting go of the things that are in the way of you experiencing your life the way you want to now. And so I just keep going down that path, and naturally a lot of the conversations I was having with friends and clients was starting to lean towards that. And for me, like being in the fitness industry for so long, like I love health and fitness, and it's been so good to help so many people with their journey. But after a period of time, it's like there's only so much you can do when you're trying to impact someone's life with, teaching them how to train and eat. Whereas with the mindset and the personal growth side, I just saw how much of an impact that was having on anyone and everyone. Yeah. And for me to be able to experience how much more I enjoyed my life when I started to dive into this, I just really wanted to be able to share that experience with as many people as I could. And so it just started to excite me, and I was starting to feel passionate about it. And I went from there. And like the example I always kind of use, I guess, to give someone insight into like what we're trying to get out of this, I suppose, is I'll ask you this question. Do you enjoy your birthday?
I actually don't. Kaya tries to make my birthdays as big and as fun as possible. But no, for me, my birthdays it's always the same thing. I'll have dinner at the same restaurant, Taco Bell. All I ask for is Lego, and I have since I was probably 3 or 4 years old. So my birthday up until probably 3 or 4 years old till now has always been the same. Taco Bell and Lego. Like that's,
All right,
I
bad
don't
question.
usually go out.
Bad question.
Or
Think
hang on, what
think of a
was,
day of the
what
year
was
that
the
you really
answer?
enjoy.
What was the answer? Or what should have I said? I really like it.
No, that's all right.
You sure?
Is there one day of the year that really sticks out in your mind that you just really look forward to and love?
Like every year, one
Yeah.
day. In the last few years, I'd say Boxing Day. It never used to be because Boxing Day for me was something where, like, I know Dad's working. It's the day after
Yeah.
Christmas, whatever. But now the last few years, Boxing Day has such a more meaningful purpose to me. I get to go there and I see the whole Shane Warne stand filled, which makes me put a massive smile on my face. We've obviously got now the Shane Warne legacy with the health machines and all that stuff. That puts a smile on my face. So I'd probably say Boxing Day for me would, if I had to pick one day of the whole calendar, Boxing Day.
Beautiful.
Is that a better answer?
That's all right. Yeah. So in the lead up to that day, so let's say like the week before and the day of, anything that you usually like couldn't really be bothered doing, or the things that would usually like maybe piss you off a bit, or the things that would usually bring your mentality or your frequency down a little bit, you don't really care about them because you've got anticipation for this great thing that's coming up and you're excited about it. Or like when you go away on a holiday or something, right? And so when we're in that really good state, we attract more things that make us feel the way that we're already feeling. Much the same as when we have something that really puts us in a shit mood, and then it feels like the rest of the day just goes absolutely horrible.
Yep.
It's like because we're drawing those experiences into ourselves based off how we feel now. And so the thing that I always kind of mention, and I think has made a big impact for me, is understanding that like we are the cause and our reality is the effect. And majority of people kind of go through their life treating it the opposite way around.
Yeah.
Where they're using their experience of whatever is happening in their life now to determine how they feel. And so we kind of wait for external shit to happen in order for us to then do or feel the way that we want to feel. Whereas when we make that decision and lean into that first, what you're experiencing is what you get. And so imagine you standing in front of a mirror, right, and you're wearing that shirt and you're looking at your reflection and you're like, I really want my reflection to wear a white shirt, but I'm not going to change mine yet. I'm just going to wait for the reflection to change and then I'll put it on. It's never going to happen, right?
Yeah,
you have to put the white shirt on first in order for your reflection to have it.
It's a great mindset to have, that exact mindset. And I've probably had something very similar to that mindset at least the last few years, because I'm definitely somebody that is 100 or 120% responsible for every single action in my life. So when things are going good, I like to be proud of myself. When things are going bad, I like to think I can also take action to get out of that situation, whatever it is. So I'm never somebody that blames external things. Like I'm in a bit of a way, a bit of a control freak. I try to make sure that everything in my life I can, have control over. But there's also some things where I'm like, you know what, just if it's meant to be, it'll be. If not, let go. Like try not to get too attached to things, but
sometimes allowing life to happen.
Allowing life to happen. But that mindset of everything comes from within, it almost comes back to, it's all about your perception of things as well. Like if
For sure.
we're both here now, if the same thing was to happen, the exact same thing to happen to both of us, we might interpret it both completely differently.
Correct.
Because of our perception. You might interpret it as a negative thing. I might interpret it as a positive thing. It could start raining. For you, you might be like, oh, I just got my car clean. But for me, it's like, oh, I've been really hot. I want to get, I don't mind getting a little bit wet.
Yeah.
So it's all about perception.
It is. And the mental state that you're in will determine your perception of everything, every experience you have. So again, let's say I came to this podcast today and I was in a really shit headspace. I was in a really low frequency. My experience of today wouldn't be as good. Now I could do the exact same thing tomorrow, come back here tomorrow and be in just a great mood, like really high frequency, and sit here and go, that was awesome. This place is so nice. Like that was such a fun thing to do. Yep. Exact same experience, exact same thing, two different experiences. Yeah. And so, they say that like however many people there are in the world, right? I don't know how many it is, but
nearly 8 billion.
Okay. So nearly 8 billion people are having almost 8 billion different experiences of the exact same universe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost as well like we create our own realities.
100% we do.
Because like exactly everything you're saying now is, it's all in your mind. It's all in your mindset. It's all how you interpret things. It's all about how you react. It's all about your actions as well. And I think to some people, watching and listening to this, if they have a light bulb moment, you actually are responsible for everything in your life that can be either good or bad. And obviously things happen in your life that are traumatic or an accident, which happens to everybody. For me, I lost my dad. For you, there's other things as well. But it's all about how you react to your situations and
Correct.
how you can come out of it and grow from it, I guess.
Yeah, man. You are who you believe you are.
Mm.
Right. And so like whenever we're trying to change our circumstance or change our reality, it all starts with like who you believe your identity is and what your self-image is, because that's what you're going to attract into your life. But one of the things you said just then, which is 100% spot on, your life will drastically change when you start taking responsibility for every single thing in your life. And that's not to say that everything in your life is your fault or that it's because of you. But when you take responsibility for every single thing in your life, then you bring all that kind of energy and power back, because now you're no longer projecting it outwardly on other people or other things and not being in a victim mentality and like from the outside in. Like that's one of the, I've said to you many times, said to many people, I talk about it with Danielle all the time, like one of the things that impresses me most about yourself is since the passing of Shane, your ability to not only just step up as a man, but also just like what you've done with your life is incredible. And
Thank you,
I think
DK.
you should be really proud of yourself, man.
Oh, well, thank you, DK. It's definitely something that, again, obviously, like it's real. Dad's passed away, but to me, in my mind, everything I'm doing is, my whole purpose is just to make him happy, make him proud. Everything I'm doing, I believe, like Dad's just right here watching me. So that also helps me make good decisions. And like that just helps me also be at peace. But you mentioned two words, vibe and frequency. I'm all about that as well.
Good man.
Is there things that you do in your life either every day or once a week or occasionally to raise your vibe and raise your frequency? Because to some people that might sound cuckoo. But
sure.
I think a lot more
I get
people,
it.
especially since COVID, are slowly waking up to realize, yes, there is certain music or certain TV shows or movies or things we eat or environments we're in that actually can control our vibe and can control our frequency. Some things that make us happier, being out in the sun, going for a run, finishing your work, whatever it is, there is things that can increase your vibe and your frequency. What are some of the things that either you do or you recommend people to do?
It's a great question. So you did mention a point then, which I 100% agree with. Before I understood a lot of this stuff, I used to think it was pretty woo-woo. Like you hear some of it and you're like, yeah, it's a bit, someone's just making this shit up in the forest and fucking not wearing shoes and living out in the bush.
Yeah.
But like,
and sorry to cut you off. The reason why I say cuckoo is because there would be people after or before when Dad was alive, people would say, and they'd be talking about their past loved ones in like a spirited way, or they feel them, and I'd be like, oh, well, they passed away, whatever. But like since my dad's passed, my whole mind has opened up to a whole new world, and like I truly do feel him everywhere. Like in this room, this is his old office. It's still got his desk. I'm looking at his book, his hole-in-one, his wine. Like this room, I still feel him every single day when I come in here. But yeah, that was something that I thought was cuckoo. Now that I've experienced it, I believe it. So a bit like this, vibe and frequency thing.
oh, well.
Sorry to cut you off.
No,
DK.
don't
I
be.
get excited.
I'm grateful to be in here with you, man. But look, I think the reality is every single thing on this planet is energy, right? Everything is energy. If you were to use like I don't know what microscope or something and zoom all the way into this physical thing, it's energy moving at a certain frequency. Right now, when we experience positive emotions, we would say that they are high frequency emotions. When you experience like a low or negative emotion, it's very low frequency. And so, when people say like time flies when you're having fun, right? It's because energy is fast when you're in a high frequency. When it feels like fucking takes forever while you're waiting for the microwave or you're on the treadmill, it's because energy is slow, right? And so the way I like to explain this is, imagine if you got in your car now and you're telling me, hey, DK, I really want to listen to whatever, Fox FM, I don't know, 101.9 or something like that, right? And you get in the car and you really want to listen to it. Like you're writing in your journal, you're telling Kai, you're telling everyone that you want to listen to it. You get in the car and then your radio's tuned in to like 83.4. You won't hear it. No matter how bad you want it, you will not hear it. You're on a different frequency. Now, as soon as you put your car radio into 101.9, you'll hear it. You didn't have to build the car. You didn't have to make a radio station. You didn't even have to make the music. You just had to be on the same frequency as it, right?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about high and low frequency, like I think what we should be doing is trying to intentionally spend more time in a high frequency, because the best way to explain it is like, again, might sound a bit weird at the start, but we actually draw these experiences into our experience based off what frequency we're in. So if we're in a really low frequency, that's why on the days where you have a really shitty day, it feels like everything is going the same way.
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, like we said before, when you take responsibility for everything in your life, you start getting intentional about what frequency you want to show up in before anything has happened. So you're not waiting for shit to happen so you can feel good. You're saying, I'm going to feel good now. And so it's figuring out what those things are for you. So for me, like, sorry.
No.
I was going to say, like, for me, I have a couple of things I do in the morning that I kind of refer to as anchors or like non-negotiables. And the purpose of them is to try and shift my state before I've done anything. So for me, that's either starting off with usually like cold shower or ice bath. And then I'll jump into, and the cold shower and ice bath is not really for any physical benefit. It's the mental benefit of doing something hard and shifting my state.
And doing something you don't want to do.
Correct.
So you can be proud of yourself. And
it's probably going to be the hardest decision you make for the day. And if it's the first one, everything else is easier. Yep. I'll then meditate and then do some journaling or maybe a bit of breath work instead of meditation. And the intention of me doing that meditation is to try and start feeling the emotions of how I want to feel, just sitting there with my eyes closed, like listening to a meditation. Obviously, things like going to the gym, working out, eating well, all of these things, spending time with good people, doing things that actually feel good. And, one of the real simple things that I tell clients often is to just follow the good feeling. Like do more things that actually make you feel good. And so, again, when we're intentional about how we want to spend our time and where we want to put our attention and our focus, because, imagine if you're like attention's like our number one asset, right? And so the question people should be asking themselves is like so if we think of attention as a currency, right, just like you would think of money, where are you investing your attention? And are you investing in things that's actually going to give you a return that you want?
Positive or negative.
Or are you spending your attention on things that are just losing? They're not going to give you a return ever. So, I think it's being aware of what brings your frequency down and, being intentional about avoiding those things or taking yourself out of those environments and doing more things that raise it.
Yeah. And they're all such good points you make, because it is all, when you actually think about it, you'd like to think it's common sense. Like you'd actually like to think, for me to feel good, I want to do something that makes me feel good. For that person, it might be going to the movies or it might be doing exercise.
Mm-hmm.
But all of those points you just made are so true. Another one is...
I want to quickly mention one thing. A number of those points that you just brought up and that I just mentioned as well, the common theme is that majority of them are difficult and they're uncomfortable and they're things that require a level of effort. But on the other side of those things is the experience that you want. Working out is difficult in the moment, but the feeling after is great. Cold shower, ice bath is difficult in the moment, but you feel great afterwards.
Yeah.
Choosing to eat well, it's much easier to eat like shit.
Yeah.
But you eat well and you feel good after. So all of these things requires a level of discipline.
And that level of discipline that gets required, you get rewarded with natural dopamine.
Of course.
So instead of having the fake dopamine, I might have mentioned the fake dopamine, then you're mentioning the real dopamine. The fake dopamine is the things like the junk food and the Maccas and all that.
Yeah.
But the real dopamine comes from doing something that is uncomfortable, doing something that takes time, something that takes effort, which people nowadays want to try and take the shortcut. Whereas if you actually take the long way around or the harder way around or the more disciplined way around, you'll actually naturally feel so much better. But one thing that I always try to do is I'm always a really, really, really positive person, and it's being surrounded by people like you, my dad, Aunt Middleton. There's so many people in my life that are always, no matter the situation, always extremely positive. And it always comes back to your thoughts. And it always comes back to your thoughts and your mindset, is because realistically, our thoughts are probably the only thing we can actually control. As soon as a thought enters our mind, we can control how long it stays in there for, if it's a negative, if it's a positive, if we can forget about it, get rid of it, or we can try and use that thought to either grow or come up with an idea. So I always try, if a thought enters my mind, if it's negative, get rid of it, or if it's negative, try to turn into a positive. But every single day, everything I'm doing, I try and just remain as positive as possible. And I find the more positive things I'm doing in that day, either helping somebody or whatever it is, more positive things are actually coming. And that comes back to the law of attraction.
Yeah, man, it's like a boomerang effect. You know, what you throw out, what you put out into the universe is what you're gonna get back. And you know, to your point of the thoughts, like I frame it in the sense of like you're either the observer or you're the victim of your thoughts. Right. And as you said, when you start getting selective with what thoughts you want to give your attention to, like imagine you decide to hire someone for the podcast, right? Sorry, Kai, you got the flick. And you get 20 people apply. And you've got to look at all their resumes, you got to sit in all their interviews, but you're only going to pick one person for the job. So you had to observe all of them, but they're not all the right fit. You're not going to hire all 20 of them.
Yeah.
And so things like this, like being intentional about stuff that you consume, you know, it's like whether it's the content you consume daily, whether it's the people you surround yourself with, the environments you spend time in. Like if you recognize that there are things in your life at the moment that bring your frequency down or lead to more negative thoughts, it's your responsibility to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Or to at least remove yourself from them and replace them with things that actually allow you to feel good.
Yeah. Do you have any tips to do that? Because we live in a day and age now where phones are so accessible.
Yeah.
There's junk food's cheap. Everything, like we can get that instant dopamine hit.
Borrowed happiness.
Do you have any tips to try and instill disciplines or actions to try and minimize that? Because if you're driving and you see Macca's, for me, as you've known my whole life, Macca's for me is like, if you asked me to do no Macca's for a year or even 6 months, I probably couldn't do it. But
Do you reckon it would have been harder for you to do no Maccas or no alcohol?
Well, that's what I was about to say. But if you asked me to do no alcohol for a year, easy. But no Macca's for 6 months, I would find that Macca's harder. And I think maybe it's because how I've been in my childhood or growing up. But for me, that dopamine that I get for drive-through, Macca's, burgers, whatever, that for me is my fake bit of dopamine. So that's also my reward system of if we've just done, you know, a few really good podcasts and I'm really happy, or I've just lost a little bit of weight, or I've hit a PB in the gym, or whatever it is, my reward is Macca's. That's what I want. I don't go and buy clothes or a watch or travel. Like my reward is food.
Yeah.
But going back to the tips, do you have any tips to try and not do that? Because I'm probably giving bad advice by saying if you want to reward yourself, go get Macca's. But you'd have maybe a more sensible or appropriate answer.
Yeah. Oh, look, man, I think there's two angles you can look at this. On one hand, like life is meant to be enjoyed. So if there's things that you really actually enjoy in your life and it's not harming yourself or anyone else, then the occasional, you know, in moderation is absolutely fine.
I'm okay
I think
with my Macca's a little
for sure.
bit.
But it's also just looking at the payoff of like, okay, well, is this helping me move towards where I want to be, or is it actually detracting from where I want to be? And again, that's that responsibility conversation. I think separate to that, as you said before, like we're constantly like consuming information, right? We're consuming, whether it be content or music, whatever it is, all of those things are somewhat within our control. And I mean, this is an extreme example, but the amount of people that are negatively influenced by their social media, right? Whether they're sitting there doom scrolling or whether they're comparing their life to someone else or whatever it may be. If that's you, then go through and unfollow everyone that doesn't make you feel good. Go through and again, take responsibility for the stuff that you are consuming intentionally every single day, like the news.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people can do whatever they want, but like
anytime
I see the news on, man, like it's not, there's
Negative,
nothing positive. And so it's like you're waking up in the morning or maybe at night before you go to bed when
Watching
your brain's
an hour
most suggestible.
Yeah.
It's like you're consuming stuff that puts you in a negative headspace straight away. It's like, of course, you're going to be affected by that.
Yeah, and I think where there is so much information getting like put into our brains and our consciousness, I actually don't think we're supposed to have as much information in our minds as we do. Like we, for thousands of years, would have been born and we would have lived in a community, and in that community we would have helped each other through labor or through other things, and they would eventually grow that community, keep helping each other, and then you teach your way of life to your kids and so forth. But now we're born and we're a number and we go to either school or all of these things that just are constantly putting impressions into our brains ever since we're a kid, even up until now, that there is just so much happening up here that I think that's why so many more people are stressed, anxious, have depression, all of these things.
Over-consuming.
And I think that's purely because of over-consuming. Obviously, diet and environment plays a role, but if we can control things like you said, like information or social media, if we can limit that to something that you think or personally is responsible for you, then great.
I think as well, though, like you mentioned a good point at the beginning about the podcast of just starting and just taking action and learning as you go. That's where you're going to learn. We can get to the point where we're over consuming. Like if there's someone listening or watching at the moment that has an idea of something they want to do and they're stuck in the phase of like almost paralysis by analysis, like you're over consuming content, trying to understand as much as possible so you can take action. Like consuming information without implementation is just useless. Right. And so I personally, when I look at my experiences, whether it be in business, whether it be in the gym, anything, podcasting, like I've made the most progress and learned the most from starting, taking action and learning as I go, not trying to have it all figured out first.
It's so like the more deeper you think about it and more research and consuming you do of all this mindfulness, it almost is, and this is one thing I struggle with. I'm a big conspiracy theorist or go down all these rabbit holes. And it's almost like the more information you actually learn and start to read about, it actually becomes in a way isolating because you're like, oh, is this person going to be able to relate to this or relate to that? Who do I talk to about this? But things like well-being, everybody wants to feel good.
Yeah.
So if there's things that you do or I do that make me feel good, I want to recommend that to somebody else so then they can also feel good.
Do you mind? I'm just going to quickly change the topic for a second.
Of course.
Do you mind if
we're
I?
being all on this.
No. Do you mind if I ask you a question about your dad?
Of course.
We've been talking about a lot of the mindset stuff and the mindfulness and everything. And obviously, your dad being the absolute goat. Do you know whether was mindset something that he put a lot of focus on? Was he into the law of attraction and manifesting? Would he have any certain tools that he would lean into before going out to perform? Like, was there anything that you kind of took from him?
120%. The first word and what comes to mind instantly is belief. Like he obviously had the mindset of a winner, whatever it takes, sticking up for your teammates, give me the ball, I'll win the game for us, all of that, like a winner's mentality. But one thing which he speaks about in his book, in his documentary, to me, to anybody that wants advice on things, is belief. And that word belief and having, and not just confidence, like actually faking confidence or being arrogant, but truly like deep down in your heart and deep down in your soul, really believing that you can actually do something, or if you can visualize something coming to life, then it can be.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how absurd it sounds or how outrageous it sounds, but if you can truly believe in your heart and soul and visualize that what you want to come to be, it'll happen. No matter how long it takes or what it is, it will happen.
Yeah.
Like belief is the one thing, like out of all of that Dad would always tell people about. It's like if you don't believe it, no one else will, and it won't happen.
Of course not.
Like you can't fake it. So if you can really believe it happening, then it will happen.
I'm going to follow up to that, but just quickly with the belief side of
Don't
things.
have to
So
say just
something
quickly.
I think that you will like
take your time. It's all
is
good.
first and foremost, it really doesn't matter whether our beliefs are true or false. Right? As long as we believe them to be true, our experience of them will be 100% true. And you see this day to day, like whether someone feels like they're not good enough, whether they don't think that they're going to do well, whatever it is, like if that's your belief, your result will reflect it. And so like when we have this belief, it's gonna alter or determine our thoughts, which will then determine the actions we do or don't take. And then the result always reflects the belief. And so to your point about your dad, and I think if you look at any successful person, whether it's in sport or not, one that comes to mind obviously is MJ as well. Like the belief is, as you said, it's not fake belief. It's like this is an outcome, this is a reality that I know is going to happen. And I think the important part too is like the things along the way that maybe suggest that it won't can't deter you from the belief itself. And so the question I had for you is like with your dad, was that something he had from the beginning, or was that something that he had to learn and teach himself?
I think it was something that he learned because he'd always believed he was going to be an AFL player. And then obviously when that didn't happen, he's like, well, what am I going to do now? So that's when he went to England.
Just become the best in the world at cricket instead.
Started playing cricket, was pretty good at leg spin, came back, went to the academy, got his opportunity to play cricket. So he always explained cricket found him. And if you would have asked him at 18 years old, do you think you'd be a professional AFL player? He would have said yes. If you asked him about cricket, he'd say absolutely not. But then once he became a cricketer and was getting better and better and improving and actually got the confidence that he was a capable Australian cricketer, that belief and that confidence becomes true. And it actually is contagious, especially in a team environment like MJ with basketball, which all of his teammates explain it. Yes, they may not have liked him, but without MJ, they wouldn't have been able to win. In AFL terms, Dusty, a lot of his teammates said, if we didn't have Dusty, we couldn't have won. And if you had asked Dusty in those premiership years, do you think you win the premiership this year? He would have 100% said yes. He would have believed it. And that belief, exactly like Dad, was contagious because he believed in himself, which in theory then his teammates would also be like, well, if Shane believes it, I believe it. I'm going to ride with him. And then all of a sudden he brings everyone else up. And that's a really, really, really rare thing to have. Like that's not just something that you can fake. Like you can't fake that style of either leadership or that style of, contagious belief. You just can't fake it. You really have to believe it. Belief was always, probably drag that out a little bit, but belief was always the number one thing.
One last question with this. Was there anyone that Shane looked up to in the sporting world, maybe outside of cricket, that he kind of, I'm not going to say idolized, but he looked at them and was a big fan of them as an athlete?
Well, Dermy was his first hero. He growing up, he wanted to be Dermot Brereton, 23, the mullet, the earrings, the flamboyant personality. Like that's what Dad wanted. And then I think as he got older, he obviously grew a lot towards people like Terry Jenner, who was his first ever coach for leg spin in the Australian team. But other sportsmen, like he loved Tiger Woods. He just loved that mindset. He loved MJ. All these greats, I think, he could really relate to because they would all talk about sacrifice from your family, travelling commitments. And I think people don't realise, like back in the day when you played cricket for Australia, especially in the 90s and even earlier, but in the 90s and early 2000s, you're on the road for like over 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
So, and at that time, the families weren't allowed to staying at the same hospitals. Kids are being born. Like there's so many things going on. But to Dad, he still had to go and represent his country. So I think, other athletes around the world, MJ would probably be, even though that Dad wasn't the biggest like basketball fan, MJ was definitely
still relate.
Yeah, he could still relate to MJ, Tiger Woods, just that level of greatness
and commitment
to actually breaking records and not being satisfied with, I've won, like for Tiger Woods, I won Masters, I want to win it more and more and more. Some people are happy just with that one. And like that's it, that's their goal.
The drive disappears.
Yeah, the drive disappears because they've done it. But what makes like legends is when they get there and they're like, I want it again. And then all of a sudden they're breaking records and they're doing things that people could never have imagined.
Yeah.
A bit like Dad with breaking the records for how many test wickets he got, Tiger Woods with his Masters and everything like that, MJ with his rings. All of these different athletes, there's always one thing in common, and that's just their mentality and also the belief to make it come true.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's crazy to think about.
Thanks for sharing, man.
That's really cool. That's okay. Thank you for asking the questions. It's always, it's nice just talking about that stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
One other thing I would love to talk about though is your Unify supplements. How and why is the purpose behind the supplements? Because everybody takes supplements, creatine, protein, electrolytes, pre-workout. But what was the purpose for you starting yours?
Well, obviously health and fitness is a big part of my story and my career, I guess, up until this point. And, health and fitness having played such a big role in, again, not just business, but just my life, realistically. And so over the years, like for my own training and for clients and whatnot, I'd obviously, pretty early started using supplements and tried all the supplements there was. And as my content and podcast and stuff started to get a little bit more traction, I was really, really fortunate, talking about belief. Like one of my goals right from the start, I remember I wrote down in my journal, like right at the beginning of like the whole fitness journey thing, I was like, my dream was to be sponsored by a supplement company. I was like, fuck, that'd be amazing. I used to go to the expos and just think, how cool would this be?
Yeah.
And then, in time that became a reality. I was working with a company for probably 4 or 5 years as a sponsored athlete there. And it was awesome. It was great. And, the opportunity just came about, I'd looked at opening up a gym, like doing a bit of a facility, and we got kind of partway through the process of making that happen, and then it all fell through. And so I kind of just took it as a bit of a sign and thought, I'd been offered before by a manufacturer to go and do my own thing, but it just wasn't really a priority. And I I suppose everything that I had built up until that point required me to be in it, and still kind of does. And so we saw it as my fiance Danielle and I kind of saw it as an opportunity to build something. And throughout COVID, we'd launched, using the same name, we launched an activewear brand. Because Danielle is like a professional online shopper pretty much, and she's got that much activewear that we thought, let's just try this out.
Too.
Yeah, relatable. And we started that, and we just didn't have the time to put into it to do it properly, and so we kind of just phased that out a bit. And then when this opportunity came about, I was like, well, I really like the name. We already got the branding and stuff, so let's go with that. And we kind of took about 8 months to start formulating all the products. And for me, it was just like, one, I want to be able to put together some products that, I would feel is the best formula you can possibly put together, which excited me. And my whole goal with anything I've done has always been to try and add value and help people, on their journey, whatever it is, fitness, mindset, whatever. And I just thought, what better way to be able to have almost like a byproduct of all of my work that I'd kind of put in to have it through a product. And so, we launched this just over 2 years ago now, and it's been a fun journey. There's a lot to learn, and it's a challenging market itself, but we just wanted to make sure we did it the right way, and ideally get this, to eventually become, a bit of a household name, especially in Australia, of quality products.
Oh, congrats, DK, because I've taken it a few times. You've been very generous with your time and given me supplements and training me. But like, I take these and I couldn't recommend it more. But have you got other flavors other than the triple chocolate?
Yeah, so we've got the triple chocolate, we've got vanilla, we've got choc honeycomb, our creatine, which creatine at the moment is finally becoming quite mainstream. It's one of the most researched products or supplements ever, and I think everyone should be using it. Yeah, we've got our hydration product is probably one of our best sellers. Which is electrolytes, and you don't really hydrate with water alone. Like, you need electrolytes, and then we have our pre-workout as well.
Yeah, if you could recommend like 5 either supplements, or if somebody was trying to make a healthier start in their life and starting on a healthier journey, what would be like 5 tips you'd recommend? Either it can be through supplements or walking, or what would be just 5 tips to live a healthier journey?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'll say, which might somewhat shock people, is like, if you're not regularly moving your body, right? Whether it's obviously I'll touch on what I would suggest in a second, but if you're not regularly moving your body, if you haven't nailed your nutrition, if you're not taking care of the other things first, like, don't buy supplements. Like, I would not recommend buying supplements if you haven't done those things first, because as the name would suggest, like, they're there to supplement what you're already doing. They're not going to do the work for you. They're going to maybe add a little bit of a percent to your results, and they definitely can be a big help, but they're not going to help shit if you haven't done the other stuff, right? So I think everyone should be doing some form of resistance and strength training, multiple times per week, particularly as people age, like bone density, coordination, having enough muscle tissue and whatnot. Like, it directly affects your metabolism, right, as well. And so, essentially allowing you to eat more without gaining body fat. And in terms of like cardiovascular health, I think obviously that's a big one. How you do that or how you achieve that's completely up to you. Like, whether it's walking, riding, swimming, running, doing classes, whatever it is, like, find what you actually enjoy. I think that's the main thing, is like, where people really fall off is following an approach that they have zero intent of sticking to long term. And so we go in these cycles and ways of like, crash dieting, doing a program that you can't stick to, and then start again. Like, we want to find an approach that we could happily stick to for the rest of our life if we need to.
Because one thing you've recommended me to as well is don't overwhelm yourself at the start, because you just burn out too quickly. So just taking littler steps and then growing from that. Because I know if somebody's never gone to the gym before and we go, all right, go 4 or 5 times a week, after maybe 2 weeks, they'll go, I'm too exhausted. Like, don't worry about it. But if they just start off with going once a week, then twice a week, and then eventually, hopefully 3 times a week, and then they'll build on that, and then all of a sudden they'll get more confidence. And
I mean, what's optimal on paper may not be optimal for you.
For everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And so it should revolve around your lifestyle and not the opposite way around. And then obviously, nutrition's the biggest one. I mean, we could do a whole episode on nutrition, but ultimately, the thing that's going to have the biggest result on your body composition result is, your energy intake. If you're in a negative energy balance, calorie deficit, you'll gradually lose body fat over time. If you're in a calorie surplus or a positive energy balance, you'll gradually gain weight over time. And I think that where people should start is, trying to understand how much they should be consuming and getting an adequate amount of protein every single day, which is, for the majority of people that aren't focused on their nutrition, they're just not getting anywhere near enough protein. And it plays such a big role in so many different things.
And for somebody to find their maintenance, to figure out whether they're in a surplus or deficit, what would you recommend?
I mean, there's a couple of approaches. This is not me trying to plug my stuff, but the first thing,
you've got your supplements here, so
I'll give you a link to put in the show notes for people to use the calculator that I've got online, a free calculator to figure out like where you should start. Otherwise, to be perfectly honest, like the most accurate way would be to at least roughly start tracking your regular food intake now for like a week or two, right? Along with just doing your regular exercise if that's what you're doing at the moment. And at the end of that week or two, just see what's happened. Like if you've gained weight, you're in a calorie surplus. If you lost weight, you're in a deficit. If nothing's happened, then you're probably at maintenance. And whatever that number is, like you make your decision from there, and that's always going to be most accurate.
I'm doing like this. So I like to think I'm in a bit of a maintenance because I'll go really strict and then I'll have a bit of fun. And then I'll go really strict, have a bit of fun. So I'm like in a bit of a maintenance at the moment.
I think the thing, like once you understand nutrition though, it's a lot simpler than what it gets made out to be. But the most important thing is once you do understand it, you have control of your results. Like right now, as you said, you might have a period where, things are a little more relaxed, and I always kind of talk about it being like shifting away from like an on and off switch and more like a volume dial. Like you can turn the volume dial down a bit, but when you want to and when you need to, you know exactly what to do to get the result that you want. And that's the main thing.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, there's just 3 things I want to quickly try and bring up.
Yep.
First one, what's it like working with Steph and for Kick? Because you've been their PT did that start in 2019? 2018?
We launched the app in 2017.
2017.
When we did our first kind of filming
nearly 10
and
years.
programming.
How's that all going? Because that's gone, like, to me, I'm always seeing updates through you and through Steph, and I just think that app and how you're able to show other people a healthy way of living or through exercise or everything like that on an app is so impressive.
It's cool, man. Yeah, I was very, very grateful, back then to have a connection with Laura first, and then I obviously met Steph, and they came to me and asked if I wanted to, program their workouts for the app. And of course I said yes. And the girls have done such an incredible job since they launched that back then. Like, not only the amount of people not only the amount of people that they've impacted in such a positive way, like with just their life in general, but even the business sense. And they've obviously continued to progress in their own lives, and both of them have got kids now. And, Josh and Dold have been part of the journey as well. But yeah, it's been awesome. Very grateful. It's a very cool opportunity for me. I was obviously heavily in the fitness space already, but it allowed me to really have a positive impact on maybe an audience that I probably didn't already have.
Yeah.
And so because a lot of their members in their audience were probably just starting their fitness journey, it was cool for me to make sure I could kind of give them a foundation to build from and do it the right way. Because as you and I both know, like when you're doing it on your own, you'll go through all of the things at the start until you find what kind of actually works. Yeah. And so being able to have that impact was pretty cool, man.
That's awesome, DK. And you've done live events with them as well, haven't you?
Yeah,
like
we did. That
full
kind
of hundreds of people.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like I think they kind of wrapped up just before or around when COVID. I think one of our last kind of tour things obviously got cancelled because of COVID 2020. But there's about 2 or 3 year period before that where we were going to like all the major cities in Australia, and there would be like 400 or 500 people doing these live workouts. It was crazy. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But again, it just kind of shows the impact that the girls are having. And they were fun. Yeah, it was really good.
That's awesome. Second last thing, relationship with Will Sparks, because he is a big, big boy. And I remember growing up, like when I was 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, still now, like his music had such it's so deep in my brain that whenever I hear it, I just instantly feel happy. I instantly remember being at parties and birthdays or out and hearing it. Just makes me feel good, especially when it comes on the gym. I've got a really good set that he's played. I think it was from either 2016 or 17 that like I'll listen to at least a few times a month, and I'm like, oh, like I feel good. So what's it like being around Will and training with him? Because he's a proper big boy.
100%. Yeah, he much like you and I, he just loves his training, man, and he has and continues to work like so hard on his physique, but it's also just part of his life, and I think that's a big part of probably his success too. Like he takes his job seriously and treats it like a job, and I think in that industry you have to. But I was much the same as you, man. Before I met Will, I was obsessed. I'd go to all these live shows. I love his music and still do. I was saying to him the other day, it's so cool. Like he sent me a Dropbox folder with like a bunch of songs that he hasn't released yet.
Yeah, because I saw he's doing a show and he's going to be maybe playing all those songs and.
Yeah, I think in June he's doing like a kind of like an old school show, which we're going to be there for sure.
Oh, awesome.
It'll be really cool. But yeah, he sent me this Dropbox thing, and I was thinking like, how cool is this? Like the younger version of me would have been just thinking like, this is wild. But he's such a good dude, man. He is an absolute master of his craft. He's very, very consistent with what he does, and he's essentially kind of created a genre of music realistically.
Sure.
And most importantly, he's just a great dude. He's great fun to hang around with, and a very hard worker, and loves training.
And does he play, or does he say a little bit, or maybe even a big part of his success and his health when he's on tour is training, like being in the gym, being consistent?
Definitely.
Because I could imagine being a DJ, your hours and the traveling is just, it'd be bonkers.
Yeah, like, he'll instantly try and figure out where a gym is, or try and get a hotel with a gym in it. And that's probably one of like the most impressive things is like, as you said, their schedule is out of control. Like I remember we spent a bit of time with him over in Greece when he had a couple of weeks off. And then after that, I think he had like maybe 3 shows in 24 hours in 3 different countries or something like that. And so having that lifestyle, like the fact that he is still so consistent with his training, like when he's doing that is crazy. But again, I think that's like what allows him to keep going in his career and be doing so well.
Yeah.
Because without it, I mean, shit, it's hard enough here when you just have a normal week and you don't train, like you mentally don't feel as good and physically, obviously. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And his physique's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So impressive. And then lastly, your other half, Danielle.
Yes.
How is it going with Danielle? Because I know you guys have engaged.
Yeah, we're engaged. Yep.
Over nearly 2 years. Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, just over 2 years.
Because I always like, it's a cliche, but behind every good man is an even better woman. Behind me,
sure.
I've got Kaya. I'm sure behind you have Danielle.
For sure.
What's it like training? Because she also loves the gym and hard worker.
Yeah, man. She's one of the hardest workers I've ever met, but she loves the gym. She never even really trained, and now she probably trains more than me. Like,
so you got her into the gym, and
man, she's awesome, and very, very, very lucky, man. We got engaged just over 2 years ago, and man, she's made my life absolutely incredible, and I'm so grateful to have the relationship I have with her, and super excited to hopefully start our own family sometime soon, and get married sometime soon. But yeah, it's so fun, and she's awesome.
Oh, well, congrats, DK. It's
Thank you,
nice to hear people speak so positively about their partners. So thank you for opening up, DK.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to wrap up or end on or promote or tell people what you've got coming up, or the best ways for people to find you?
Oh man,
your website.
Best places people can find me is probably just either through the Fitness and Lifestyle podcast, or Instagram, which is just at DJK Fitness. But nothing to promote, man. I mean, obviously, Unify is our supplement company. I'll give you a code or something that the listeners can kind of use for a good discount if they want to. But man, I'm just grateful to be here with you today, dude. And as I've said to you before, really, really value our friendship, and very, very impressed with everything that you're doing. And was very, very excited and happy when you asked me to come on. So thank you.
Awesome. It was very long overdue. So DK, mate, thank you for coming on. No worries. Thank you.